loves. So some of my top videos on my channel, not in terms of views, but in terms of what you guys respond to, are my paranormal videos and my Disney themed videos. And I told my own personal paranormal experience at Disney. I'll link it down below if you want to go check that out. You guys loved it. So I wanted to tell you some more stories about rides and attractions at Disneyland and Disney World that may or may not be haunted. You guys should be the judge of these. There are so many claims of paranormal things happening at Disney, about haunted rides and stuff like that. And especially when you look at rides like the Haunted Mansion or Pirates of the Caribbean, where people in mourning, and it makes me so sad to think about how sad and how miserable someone must be. People will try to spread their loved ones' ashes in the Haunted Mansion and on the Pirates of the Caribbean rides. And also, obviously, people do die at theme parks. People who die at Disney are always pronounced dead at the hospital. They are never pronounced dead on Disney property. I'm gonna link my sources down below so you guys can go and read the full stories for yourself if you're interested, but for now, let's get into some scary ghost stories about Disneyland. So the first story I wanted to tell, this is so scary, but I believe it with all of my heart. I believe this so fully, is that Walt Disney himself haunts Disneyland. I have heard and seen so many accounts of people saying that they have heard or seen Walt Disney at Disneyland. So Walt actually had his own apartment built above the fire station on Main Street, which makes sense since he's, creating the theme park, it is his brand. I'm sure he's spending so much time there. And obviously after he died, the apartment is still there. It's still decorated the way that he decorated it, as far as I know. I think that it's given away sometimes to charity or winners of raffles or things like that, but for the most part, it's left untouched. Walt died back in 1966, and since then there has become a tradition of always leaving the light on in the apartment in tribute of him. But before this started, a cast member was actually in the room. I don't know what they were doing, if they were tidying up, I don't know what they were doing in there, but apparently they turned off the light in the room and the cast member heard a man say, "I'm still here." That was so weird. Okay, well, I am just gonna move on with my story. That was really strange. I don't know what that was. I'm 100% convinced that Walt Disney does haunt his theme parks. Why would you want to do anything else in the afterlife? If I have the option, that's where I'm going. This next one might be more like an urban legend, but supposedly, when they constructed the very first Haunted Mansion ride, they obviously had to have test subjects to go through the ride. And one of the very first people to be tested was a woman. And supposedly, the story goes that this woman was so scared by the ride, which think back to 1960 whatever, whenever the Haunted Mansion ride was built. The technology on that ride was probably so high from back then that people were probably scared-ishless, and it would not surprise me that someone got that scared to have a heart attack. And the story goes that she had the heart attack and then the test subject, the test person, died on the ride, which caused construction to be delayed until 1969. I don't know the validity in that. I kind of looked it up, and obviously it's an urban legend, but I didn't see any records or anything like that. I just hear so many paranormal stories about the Haunted Mansion, so it definitely would not surprise me. Supposedly the Haunted Mansion is said to be haunted by the spirit of a young boy. So no one really knows who this young boy is, but he has been reported to have been seen multiple times towards the exit of the Haunted Mansion ride. And I actually have a story I'm going to tell you guys. This is going to be from the person who wrote its perspective, but it's so scary. The person in this story is referring to the Haunted Mansion ride in Walt Disney World, by the way. "I took my 100-foot night shot accessory to Walt Disney World with the specific purpose of taking ride photos of the Haunted Mansion for a WDW Walt Disney World virtual visit. After documenting the ride, I put the camera away for the rest of the day. I went back to our place that evening and began to download the photos to my laptop. Lo and behold, one of the first shots of the attraction shows something that was definitely not there when I was on the ride. This photo was taken in the first hallway of the attraction, the one with the eye-following portraits. As you'll see in the photo, it appears as though a child is peeking his head out of the doom buggy and looking directly at me. Not only was he not there when I took the picture, there wasn't a child of this age within 20 people in front of me in line, and as you can see, he's only a few doom buggies in front of me. Not only that, what's he doing looking at me? There's no flash and no visible light coming from me. It's all infrared and naked to the invisible eye. I think it's an incredibly spooky photo and I have no idea where that kid came from." Looking at this photo is terrifying. There's no flash coming from the camera according to this guy. Now this could be a hoax. It's kind of weird the way that the kid is the only thing lit up in the photo, but maybe the flash was on. Maybe this is a total lie and someone just used a spooky looking photo and created a story behind it, but it's creepy to think about. There might be some validity behind this because actually a long time ago, a woman approached Walt Disney World employees and let them know her son had died. He loved the Haunted Mansion and she asked if she could spread her son's ashes there, and they said no a million times. No. And this poor woman in mourning spread her son's ashes there anyways. Now, whether or not that exact story is true, CNN did report that the family of like a 7-year-old boy did, like, for a fact, dump his ashes in the Haunted Mansion ride, which is really sad. And one time a bunch of guests were getting off of the ride and they told the cast member, like, that was assisting everyone out of the doom buggies, that there was a little kid running around the ride. The cast member went to go check it out and obviously no one was there. There was no little kid running around the, like, set of the ride or anything like that. People have also reported seeing a little boy crying on the ride, and they will ask if he needs help and he will essentially act like they're not there. Or, you know, that he'll disappear or something like that. That's just kind of how the story goes, is that he never acknowledges them, never talks to them, he's just there. I think I'm just gonna keep telling stories from the Haunted Mansion because there's so many of them. Like, I'm barely breaking the tip of the iceberg, but they're all really scary just because I think the nature of the ride. The next story comes from the perspective of a potential cast member who was working late at night and she was helping people get on and off of the ride. She's waiting to help the next group, but it's obviously late and so there aren't a lot of people coming and going, and she's just kind of waiting and she hears a kid laughing. And I mean, hearing a child's laughter at Disney World or Disneyland is not abnormal. So she's just thinking that the next group is gonna come around the corner. So she waits a couple minutes and she waits a few more minutes and no one ever comes, and she's a little bit freaked out. And that's when she notices something move out of the corner of her eye. She keeps seeing something out of the corner of her eye over and over again, and she thinks she's just kind of wigging herself out, like it's just the nature of the ride. She's just a little bit spooked. And that's when she feels someone touch her shoulder, and it's like a cold hand on her shoulder. No one is there. She screamed, she ran out, and she refused to ever work the Haunted Mansion again. My last story is about a cast member, so someone who works for Disney, which you don't really even think about this, but there are obviously people who work for Disney who pass away, and sometimes on the property. There's actually this really creepy thing that I read about the supposed, like, protocol for if a cast member dies in, like, a suit or something like that, like one of the costumes. You can't freak out, you can't crowd around the person. Someone has to prop them up on the sidewalk so it looks like they're still alive until someone comes to help. So until the ambulance comes and the person can be escorted out quickly and quietly, you don't even know whether or not that person sitting on the sidewalk in the costume is alive or dead. That's really scary to me, and I don't know if that's true, but I've read that on several different occasions. One Friday night, my family and I were visiting the Haunted Mansion. We were waiting in line to get into the doom buggies. There were 3 cast members working the loading. There was a female behind the controls, a male cast member at the ride entrance, and a male walking the moving walkway. I had a side view of the walking cast member. He was a young man with light brown or dark blonde hair. He was looking at a small piece of paper, a little bit bigger than a business card. They had stopped loading the ride for a few seconds because a couple of the doom buggies were occupied with visitors. During that interim, the cast member all of a sudden reached down as if to pick up something and never came back up. When I walked through the entrance, I looked down at the side of the ride and I did not see any cast member. When my husband and I were loaded in the doom buggy, I asked him what he thought the cast member was picking up. He said no one was picking up anything. Then I asked my daughter and her friend, and she said that there was only the female cast member and the male cast member. Did I see a ghost? So she basically saw someone, he like reached down to pick something up, never came back up, so never resurfaced. And when she was asking her husband and her kid about it, they claimed they never saw him. I am officially spooked. I have goosebumps for days. I like always love telling these scary stories, but it's always really sad when I'm home alone and then I have to deal with all of that. Can you guys believe? I don't know what that thump was earlier. I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm a little bit spooked, but I'm gonna go ahead and go. I love you guys so much. If you were spooked out by this, just remember that paranormal stuff is so fun. It can be so interesting to listen to. But at the end of the day, I know you all are safe. You're all okay. When you feed this sort of stuff attention and when you feed it negative energy, that's when it can get really scary. And if you just stay positive, everything is a-okay. And you guys are all fine. You're all safe in the comfort of your homes. I know this one was a little bit dark and a little bit scary, but I hope you guys enjoyed nonetheless. If you did, make sure to give me a thumbs up and please subscribe to my channel if you have not already. I love you all so much and I will see you next time. Bye!